David Lewis Fagan, and I'm Representative Giddings Legislative Director.
Taral Patel, do I need to spell it?
Sure.
Taral, last name Patel, Patel. Worked for Rep. Israel as a legislative aide.
Yeah, it absolutely does. We always keep a tally. We always ask where people are from, and we tell the rep regardless when people are calling, especially when we're getting something that's getting a lot of calls. We just had a bill in committee that she's working on, and we got hundreds of calls, and so we told her about it in emails, and you know that this is getting a lot of energy, and that definitely makes her look at it a different way. And I think that they all have to look at it a different way when the public is activated. I think it makes a big difference.
Definitely does, especially when it's relevant in the news. If there's some big incident going on, for example, right now we're discussing the budget, and today we had a lot of people come, folks that have disabilities, folks that live in state-supported living centers. One of the things that were proposed was removing funding for people who could live in these state-supported living centers that are actually very high quality, provide a lot of services to people so that they can later become rehabilitated to society, all those kinds of things. So it's been a life-changing experience for them. Mm-hmm. And for relatives that have gone through it, or people that are in it right now, or are on a waiting list and have realized the great benefits that it can provide to them. You know, oftentimes people have nothing, and when they have nothing, the people they reach out to are their representatives to try and get their voice heard. And that's what we are here to do, is to make sure the people who have been ignored, don't really have an avenue of success, can reach out to us, and we can try to help them connect the dots and see what can actually happen.
I think it's when there are people that came together at a smaller level, whether it be an organization that was formed, a task force that was formed, or just a group of people who really came together and planned a strategy. I think it takes a lot of coordination and strategy to pull off the kind of activism that really makes a difference. It's not somebody watching the news and giving a call, although that's helpful. Like I said, any call helps, especially if it's not getting a lot of calls. But for those things that are getting a lot of attention, it's really helpful, I think, to have sort of a very unified message and a unified goal in your ask.
There's a good saying that a good political mentor of mine taught is, history is made by those who show up. The levels of civic engagement are so low in Texas and in the United States, but more so in Texas compared to every other state. We have one of the worst voter registration rates in the country, one of the worst voter turnout rates in the country. Is that even by a small group of people, even a couple of community college students or students anywhere, finding a small group of people, putting aside an hour or two every day, registering their campus to vote, set up a table, you will make a massive impact. You will get representatives to listen to you because you are their voters. You are responsible for the next re-election. Once the representative figures out that, holy shit, there are a lot of students in my district, they're very agitated about this certain issue, and now there's 10,000 of them that will vote. This race has been decided by 5,000 votes. I gotta start making a change. I gotta start making a difference. So you definitely have the power by dedicating even small amounts of time. Find a small group. That group will grow and expand, and if everyone in that group is able to even contribute a small part of time, you make a big impact.
If you don't have, I think you always have the time to do something. I mean, a phone call is very short. An email is very short. So I don't really ever think you don't have enough time to do anything. And, you can't always show up to testify, but you can always reach out to your member. You can always come here when you have spare time, and you can always make calls. And I think that any little bit helps. And if it is something that you don't see a lot of activation around, if those communities haven't formed, you could be the person who alerts a staff member like me who tells my boss, hey, take a look at this line that this person brought up to me. And it makes a big difference. And, I think the one thing that people often don't know is that talking to staff matters a lot. And a lot of people think, oh, I didn't get to talk to the member, so it was a waste of my time. And often the member's dealing with so many different things that talking to staff is actually more valuable. And so any one of those touches, I think, is a good use of time. It is. I've worked in the legislature since 2014, and I don't remember one time someone walking in this office and being totally turned away.
they're taking the time out of their day to come talk to somebody face to face. That gives us kind of a narrative of what the actual situation is, lets us put somebody's physical context into the statistic that we read in our reports every day. And after that happens, we have a list of multiple issues that constituents contact us about that we pass on to the representative. Like, these are the groups of people or the amount of people that have told us they want this kind of bill or that are against this kind of bill. And then my other job after that is to give the representative recommendations on experiences that people have had based on what I've talked to them about, what I've read from constituents. So it's definitely helpful when the analyst or the aide is providing recommendations for a certain policy area, because they're going to listen to someone if they're well versed in the policy field or have been talking to people in their communities who are affected by a certain policy change.
I think working with people you disagree with is the only way to get anything done, and it's very easy to talk to people you agree with. But again, I think I've never had a conversation here of where I couldn't find any common ground. There's always something, and that something can become something bigger. And so I think that it's always worth pursuing. And, here it makes a big difference when there's a Democrat and a Republican on a bill. It makes a big difference to us when we're getting calls from a diverse community. So working with people you disagree with is the only way to really make change. Yeah, definitely. We are working on a lot of juvenile justice issues right now, including banning the suspension of very young children. We're seeing thousands of young kids being suspended from school for reasons that aren't violent, that aren't criminal, but for things like being disruptive in class or for even things as trivial as dress code. And so that's something that I think people from left and right, from rural districts and urban school districts all sort of understand is a problem we need to fix. And so there are some issues that really aren't on the left-right continuum, and there's opportunity to work together on it.
Another example is we have a whistleblower bill. And what this bill does is right now, if you blow the whistle as a public employee to your supervisor, you're not protected. You have to report to law enforcement. And in many situations, law enforcement won't take you seriously, or that's not the first thing that goes through your mind when you're reporting your grievance. You go to your supervisor or your human resources staff. We have a bill, it's a whistleblowing expansion bill, so that you can report to your supervisor or HR staff, which is pretty big because that means that a lot of public employees who are there to help their communities are able to do the right thing and get the protections that they deserve. It's a very bipartisan bill. It makes a lot of sense. The reason I think a lot of Republicans are on board is because government fraud leads to a lot of waste of money and taxpayer resources, which is true. By blowing the whistle and that person having protection, you're encouraging people who want to do the right thing to have the protections when they do the right thing. And in the end of the day, you're going to save a ton of money if there is wrongdoing that is uncovered. If taxpayer money is being misused and wasted, why not give somebody who calls out the problem some protection? And a lot of Republicans sign on to that bill. So, you can find common grounds if you find the right arguments and the right people to make those arguments.